On TV, on radio, and on your smartphone. This is Talk TV.
Welcome to the Talk, live on Talk TV, the home of straight talking. I'm Sharon Osbourne, and tonight we're celebrating the Queen's Platinum Jubilee.
And I'm Ian Collins, joining us on the panel to pay tribute to Her Majesty are former royal butler Paul Burrell, Talk TV's Daisy McAndrew, and Times radio presenter Aisha Hazarika. Now, in breaking news tonight, we're hearing, of course, in the last hour, the Queen will not attend tomorrow's Thanksgiving service at St Paul's Cathedral. The palace said Her Majesty had greatly enjoyed today's birthday parade, but did experience some discomfort. They said it's with great reluctance that she will not attend. And Paul, after a great day, this is rather sad news, isn't it?
I'm gutted, because is this the last time we'll see the Queen at the Platinum Jubilee weekend? Because today has been such a fantastic day. The nation wants to see her. But she is 96 years old. She's had a journey from Windsor and back, and she's been on her feet all day. She doesn't cancel engagements without reason.
Good reason. And it's funny, isn't it, because we debated a couple of weeks back whether she would even be
at anything.
On the balcony. And she's done a few events, hasn't she, culminating in that today, Sharon?
It's so sad.
Indeed. Well, earlier today, the Platinum Jubilee celebrations did kick off in regal fashion. Thousands lined the Mall to commemorate her 70 years on the throne. And this was the big moment we were all waiting for. Seeing the Queen beaming on the balcony of Buckingham Palace. She was later joined by other working members of the royal family, including Prince Charles, the Duchess of Cornwall, Prince William, the Duchess of Cambridge, and their 3 children. It was the most famous balcony in the world, isn't it? That's the point we wanted to see.
It is. And she did look so happy. And to see her there with her little great-grandchildren, and it was just like such joy.
Yeah.
And it just made you feel good. And I went out in town earlier on, and it was like festive, so festive. Everybody was happy, everybody's dressed up. Little kids with Union Jacks painted on their faces. People had Union Jack bows this big. And it was just great to feel everybody together and everybody having a good time. It's brought people together.
Yeah, it had that kind of sort of the 2012 thing, Daisy, didn't it? Do you remember?
It really did, and I was so lucky, and I'll tell you a bit more about it later, but I was so lucky I was down there all day, and the atmosphere when you were walking, I was walking through Green Park, and there were and this was when most of the crowds had dispersed, and there was just that lovely sort of fluffy mood. Do you know what I mean? Everybody was smiling. People weren't drunk. It wasn't that kind of event. You know, there were loads of picnic blankets around and sort of half-eaten picnics. But again, I noticed that, yes, the bins were overflowing, but they were overflowing. The mess wasn't ever... You know, it was just a really respectful family atmosphere. Loads of different nationalities, loads of different Commonwealth countries represented. There was just such a lovely feeling in the air.
Yeah. It was nice, Paul.
It was. And I don't think people realised the Queen was actually on the balcony when she first stepped onto the balcony with the Duke of Kent, because they weren't looking. They were looking at the troops. And there, suddenly, she was there. And people don't realise who the Duke of Kent is. He's a son of Prince George, the son of King George and Queen Mary.
So
he's very royal, her cousin.
Yes.
And he stepped into the void which Prince Philip left behind.
Yeah.
So he's there to support the Queen. He's known the Queen forever. And he's the man to do it.
It was incredible. And Aisha, there was that... I mean, even if somebody isn't a massive royalist, and we talked about this earlier in the week, didn't we? It was still... It's a huge day, this, and that is a very iconic visual, isn't it? The Queen on the balcony and the waving.
And what about the flyover? That was incredible. It was just incredible. And nobody does it like the Brits do it.
Yeah.
No. It was
There's no other country in the world that can produce something like that. I mean, it was spectacular.
And I think, you know, It was a unique day in history because no other monarch will reign for the length of time that the Queen has done. She has this unique place in history. And if you take a step back, she's this golden thread through history. She takes us from JFK and Winston Churchill to Margaret Thatcher, Ronald Reagan. She's seen political, social, economic, technological change, wars, geopolitics changing. She has seen it all, and she's been this incredible stability and constant across society as our head of state. I mean, I remember I also don't remember, my research, one of the most powerful speeches at 21, she knew she was going to be Queen. And it's almost like she made a marriage vow to the citizens of this country and the Commonwealth. She said, whether my life be long or short, I will devote myself to you.
And I think what you're saying about, all the historical moments that she's seen, which we all think about it and we know, and I mean things like, she saw the Berlin Wall go up and come down again. It's extraordinary. But then I think a lot of people, particularly people I was talking to today, they were also thinking about their own lives. Like you've already said, how long she's been. I mean, I just turned 50. The day I was born, she'd been on the throne for 20 years already.
That's insane,
I find that extraordinary. And I think a lot of people today were thinking about, my granddad has never known any other person on the throne. And also then thinking, I was thinking, I'm never going to see another Jubilee. I'm pretty certain. If you do the maths, I mean, Charles isn't probably going to have a 25
silver Jubilee.
A silver Jubilee. So it's probably going to be William. He might get one, in 45 years' time. Well, I'm going to be 95 then, so I'm probably not going to see it.
But
and then you think, wow, this is such a big moment.
She's been a part of all our lives.
Absolutely.
And we've always known the Queen to be there, a figure of stability and strength, the glue that sticks the nation together.
Everybody at this table grew up with the Queen being Queen.
Well, in our family, and I think this is true actually of a lot of immigrants, particularly at that time when people like my parents came over from India, they loved the Queen so much. And when we were growing up, we had all this crockery, slightly naff crockery with the Queen and members of the royal family. And I think people don't realise that for a lot of immigrants, there's a real affection, particularly from the Commonwealth, for the Queen. They feel very proud of being part of her Commonwealth.
Absolutely. And Paul, you mentioned the Duke of Kent. Yes. I mean, just tell us about that special relationship.
Well, he's 86 years old. I mean, the Queen's always known him since childhood, and he's always been there. He's the senior male figure now in the royal family, and he's also
a colonel, is it?
He is.
Is it a Scots Guards?
Absolutely. But I was thinking today, looking at the Queen and the Duke of Kent on the balcony, he didn't look too great. The Queen looked fabulous.
Oh, yeah, and the Queen's 10 years older.
Yes.
Because am I right in thinking his father died in the war, was brought down in a plane crash, and his father was... So the King had 3 sons.
Yes.
The eldest, who abdicated with Mrs. Wallace.
Yes.
The second son, who became the King, the Queen's father, and the youngest son, who was the Duke of Kent's father. So he grew up as a prince, as the son of, as a grandson of a king, and as her first cousin. So you can't get closer than that. They were really close as children.
The House of Kent is a very royal house. And, of course, he was married to the lovely Duchess of Kent, who always presented the trophies at Wimbledon. We remember her.
Yeah.
She's sort of taken a step backwards from royal duties, but we remember her service to the King.
Did he look quite emotional today?
He did.
I thought he did. I thought at one point he was going to cry. He looked very, very...
Witnessing this huge event, knowing that he's standing in the place that Prince Philip should have been stood in.
He looked overwhelmed.
He did.
Yeah.
And he accompanied the Queen to Horse Guards Parade as well. Sharon, you told me. I didn't realise that he had. Yeah. And then nipped back to the palace with the Queen.
Yes, because there are some photographs, which I think we'll talk about a bit more later, of Meghan and Harry, and they're with him. And I was thinking, but I thought he was at Buckingham Palace, but he'd gone to the actual parade, and then he'd gone back. And meanwhile, the Queen had just arrived from Windsor. And then they walked out onto the balcony. And, of course, the balcony was where every newspaper tomorrow is going to be full of those pictures on the balcony. They're little Louis.
Well, it's the Queen and Louis, isn't it?
Completely stealing the show. I mean, what a character he is. There he was. He had his hands over his ears.
Picking his nose, the whole
he
9
was doing
yards.
the full four.
Yeah.
You know, all 4-year-old boys have to put their fingers in their noses.
Yeah.
That's just a rule. And there was Kate being wonderful with him, and sort of as they walked out, he was sort of standing in front of his great grandmother. She was like, "No, not that, not in front of the main event."
It's the span of the generations, really, isn't it? The Queen, the stateswoman that she is, and her great-grandson.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the picture of the day.
I mean, you must have heard those conversations behind the scenes
Oh,
about,
yes.
you know, what happens when we go out, who stands where, make sure
in
that
that
this
room,
happens, etc.
that room behind the balcony, there's no furniture in it. And the Queen comes into that room and she corrals everyone. Everyone knows their place. And the minute those doors open, she leads the way and everybody follows suit. They know exactly where they're going to stand on the balcony.
And presumably there is a pecking. I mean, obviously the Queen stands in the middle, and then, I mean, it used to be Philip, and then it would be Charles.
Yes, Charles and Camilla one side, and William and Kate on the other side with the children. And the children, quite rightly, come into centre frame because they lighten up the atmosphere, don't they? And everybody wants to see the children.
But also thinking about that continuity thing, you know, I was looking at little Louis and thinking this is his first public Trooping the Colour. This is an event he's going to go to every year for the rest of his life. He's going to go to his great-grandmother's, as he did today, then his grandfather's, then his father's, and then his brother's.
Yeah.
I mean, isn't that amazing?
You're looking
to
at
think
4
that's
monarchs.
his future.
Yeah.
4 monarchs on the balcony today.
And also, it was, you know, it's always the kids that steal the show at these big royal things. We always remember Diana's wedding, you know, we remember the little kids. They always bring that kind of light and the sort of humour to these, you know, quite serious proceedings. But what I was really struck by watching Camilla and Kate and the 3 kids in the carriage, this is only the beginning of our relationship with these children, because we only see them a wee bit, you know, there's sort of specialist pictures that come out.
Of course.
We're going to see these kids grow up. These kids are going to be so important in our collective lives as they grow up. It was really interesting seeing them together.
I wonder if it struck anyone else, though, that watching that carriage with the 3 children and Camilla and Kate, that Camilla's seat, someone else should have been sat there.
Well, I was going to ask you that, Paul.
And that was poignant for me.
Did you think about Diana?
I did. But we can't look back into the past.
You
we have to
can't
look
go
forward.
back.
We
Exactly.
can't.
You could
we have to
only
go
go
forward. Go forward, and I hope the monarchy survives through the next generations, because Kate and William are worth getting to, because their wonderful children will then succeed them.
I thought it was a lovely touch that Kate was wearing Diana's sapphire and diamond earrings. It was almost like something borrowed, something blue. You know, there were lots of little moments. And I mean, my God.
The hat was very reminiscent of one that Diana had. And I thought to myself, oh, my goodness, there's all these little sort of hints of family life.
And the sailor suit that Louis was wearing, George wore that a couple of years ago. I mean, who knew that the royals do hand-me-downs, just like the rest of us do with our
the
kids?
Queen wore something we've seen before.
The Queen's, but that sailor suit, William wore it, and it's the same one William wore in 1985.
wow.
With Diana. So there's another Diana.
Can I give you a fashion stat? I've always wanted to do, you know, who was she wearing?
All right, Gordwan.
Who are you wearing?
This is great. Who are you wearing? Kate Middleton was actually wearing a recycled blazer dress. It was recycled.
Was it?
Yeah, but it was 3,000 quid's worth of Alexander
McQueen.
So I knew it was.
And
it was a bit of old toot from the
charity shop.
The charity shop, yeah. So, but I don't know whether that's a statement in itself that it was recycled as well.
I used to take all those dresses down to the second-hand shop in Knightsbridge. All Diana's old clothes went down to the second-hand shop, so somebody in Knightsbridge was very well dressed.
Oh,
That's true. Incredible.
That is an amazing story. But also, I thought another thing that was very interesting today was, as well as we were celebrating the Queen, she was also throwing forward to the next generations. We've just been talking about the future kings, and it was very interesting that Charles and Camilla did a wee walkabout, and they greeted crowds, and I thought they actually looked very, very comfortable. I mean, of course, they were flanked by armed police and security guards, But Charles wore his full military uniform. Camilla was right by his side. They shook hands, and of course he sort of, you know, led the charge on horseback for trooping the colour, and that, of course, is something that the Queen would normally do, and we're seeing him take this central prominent role. We saw him at the state opening of Parliament a few weeks ago. So it's very interesting. It feels like the Queen, in a very astute way, and obviously for practical reasons as well, but she's getting us used to seeing Charles in those positions.
And I noticed that the troupe, Anne, William and Charles, when there used to be Andrew and Harry, Prince Philip and the Queen. So really, it shrank for me today. And I saw the softer face of monarchy today.
But, you know, I think that's quite a metaphor for the future of the royal family, because it is going to be a slimmed-down affair going forward. By the way, I thought Anne was so cool on the horse.
Wasn't she?
She looked cool. She's just always so cool. She's very cool.
But do you know what I noticed? I was watching, you know, going through all the channels, watching all the different, you know, views on it, and hardly anybody mentioned Anne.
Didn't they?
No.
We might be the first people to do it.
Also, who's Sophie and Edward? People are like, oh, I remember them.
Point. Well, we'll have more on all of this, because coming up, Harry and Meghan have flown in for the Jubilee. They were seen watching Trooping the Colour and shushing some of the youngest royals. We're talking about that next. This is The Talk, live on Talk TV.
Well, hello and welcome back to The Talk Live on Talk TV. Now, the royal family was reunited today for the first time since Megxit. Of course, Prince Harry and Meghan. Well, they were spotted shushing some of the younger royals as they watched Trooping the Colour from the Major General's office overlooking Horse Guards Parade. Later on, they were also seen smiling at crowds from a car as they drove with their windows down near Buckingham Palace. So, does this mean that the Sussexes will be welcomed back into the firm with open arms? I mean, surely this is what the firm wants. They want Harry and Meghan to, as we've seen quoted this week, stick to the script, keep a low profile, come back and show their respects, but not turn it into the Harry and Meghan show.
No, no overt public appearances, keep it low profile. I think the Queen wants that because, as Sharon said, she wants a smooth Jubilee and she wants a smooth transition to the next monarchy. She doesn't want all this upset. She hates upset, and she hates all this family arguments behind closed doors. So will they embrace William and Harry? Yes, the Queen will. The Queen adores Harry. She always takes his calls. But other members of the royal family, not so
Harry
sure.
likes to let us know that his grandmother adores him. You know, that interview he did at the Invictus Games.
Relationship.
You know, I want to make sure that the people around her are the right people. That was rude.
Well, it was 2 years too late.
It was pompous, actually, because doesn't he not think his father, the Queen's son, and his brother cannot look after the Queen? And her army of staff, who are devoted their lifetime service to Her Majesty, are quite capable of looking after her. It was just talk.
But it was, I mean, surely it was deliberately taking pot shots at all those people.
The royal family will be afraid that whatever Harry and Meghan can glean from this Jubilee weekend to take back to America, to commercialise on their platform in America, they'll be very careful what they say and do around.
Although apparently the Netflix crew couldn't get accreditation, and that's why they couldn't go today.
Oh,
boo-hoo.
Sad, yes.
Well, I mean, I'm probably going to be very unpopular on this panel because I'm like the one person in the world who thinks that they actually did have a hard time, and I think the Queen is right to welcome them back. Harry is one of her favourite grandchildren. They did have a very close relationship.
But Aisha, after everything they said and done, you think they should be welcomed back?
And they did throw members of the royal family under the bus.
But they were also thrown under the bus. And I do say this, as somebody particularly from an Asian background, a lot of ethnic minority people in this country were so moved when Meghan arrived, and she could have been a huge asset to the royal family.
She was a huge asset.
We were all
moved when
moved when Meghan
got
came
treated
to the royal family.
incredibly badly. And I think one of the things that the royal family will have to think about, Britain is changing. There is a younger generation, there is a more ethnically diverse generation, and they were absolutely
But that was embraced,
appalled.
Aisha. That was wholly embraced.
Then
the
it,
iconic photograph of Meghan's
then it
mother.
absolutely wasn't, because most Black and Asian people in this country feel that she got treated really badly by certain sections of the press, certain journalists.
Like Camilla did back in the day.
This was on
Camilla
a different...
got it 100 times worse, but...
Again, with
same
respect,
thing.
I think, as someone from the Black and Asian, you know, certainly for the Asian community, there was a real sense of disappointment. And actually, in terms of the monarchy moving forward, they could be a huge asset to keeping the royal family popular.
I agree with what you say.
But just picking up on your point, Ian, comparing Camilla and Meghan, I think, is not fair on Meghan, because the reason that the public and the press really, and I totally agree that they gave Camilla a really, really rough time. But they thought of her as a home wrecker. They thought of her as the other woman. They thought of her as adulteress, and so they felt they had a reason. They felt they had a genuine reason to dislike her. Whereas people, I don't think, did have a genuine reason to dislike Meghan when she started getting criticism. I think that was, you know, unfair criticism.
You know, I mean, I was lucky enough to spend some time with Prince Harry. We did a conference together, and we did have a conversation about a lot of this stuff. And, you know, there's a lot of people around the world, across the Commonwealth and in this country, and how she was treated leaves a really nasty taste in people's mouths. It's really sad.
But so you're saying that you did think
Did you believe everything that Meghan said on the oath?
I think there absolutely was, Daisy. I think there was a lot of racism from within the palace, and I think there was racism in the press.
But wasn't it just the perfect kind of tabloid stuff? You know, Camilla's, you're right, Daisy, it's not quite the same thing, but there were all the ingredients to make it.
She's the first non-white person to come into the palace, and she was hounded out.
I don't even think that was a factor in anybody's
But are you saying by the press or the press and the family?
Both.
Who in the family? Tell us everything.
Well, we know. I mean, we know from what they've said that there were overtones to it, and the way she was treated by the press straight out of Compton, all of this kind of thing. And she got treated in a way which made a lot of people incredibly uncomfortable. I know this isn't popular with the panel.
It's not easy marrying
I know
into
it's
that
not popular
family.
with the panel, but
no,
that
it's not
is
easy
how...
marrying into the royal family. It's very difficult for an outsider to come into that world and understand all the rules and regulations. I have said this before. I do not believe that any member of the royal family is racist. I do not believe that. I never saw it in my 21 years.
A lot of people will, I'm afraid, disagree with you. Not overtly, but institutionally.
They don't know the royal family. I do.
But
I know the
institution and how it works, because the royal family is a product of our society, and there is a lot of racism.
No, absolutely not. She's head of the Commonwealth, and she's not. The royal family are not racist. I will not have anyone say they are.
We are going to have to move on, but I'm going to have the last word on that and say that some people who know people believe that they don't believe they're racist, but other people experience behaviour that they do, which they interpret as racist. So the two things, you can both be right in this instance.
But what about
as in people
Harry
don't mean
at
to be
that
Harry.
party dressing up as a Nazi?
Well, that is true, but we are now going to talk about an even less popular member of the royal family.
Boom,
Who is Prince Andrew, who's even less popular, and I'm sure we can all agree that he's made a lot of mistakes, but of course he was absent from today's events. The palace announced that he won't take part in any Jubilee celebrations because he has tested positive for COVID. Now, the Duke of York was seen riding his horse in Windsor just yesterday. He had been expected to attend a Thanksgiving service at St Paul's Cathedral tomorrow. And, of course, that's the service that we now know the Queen won't make it to either. But will that have saved the royal family another embarrassment? I think, yes, that definitely has saved. That's very convenient, no matter what the reasoning is, whether he actually has COVID, and we have to take that on face value. But, of course, now that we know the Queen's not going as well, you know, maybe the two of them can sit on the sofa together and watch the telly and watch the service, and it can all be quite convenient.
Yeah, it's very convenient, and it's solved a lot of problems.
It's a get-out-of-jail-free card, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, it is, yes. Well,
Andrew...
Yeah.
But, of course,
he doesn't sweat.
But Harry and Meghan will be there at the big service tomorrow.
Yes.
So that's coming back to our other conversation. That is, it's all going to be about the body language, isn't it? It's all going to be about Meghan and Kate. Are they going to smile at each other? All of that
and
jazz.
This is exactly what I didn't want to happen. I didn't want the media to suddenly swing their lenses towards Harry and Meghan away from the Queen. Now the Queen isn't going to be there, of course. Who else is there to look at?
Well, from one potentially unwanted guest to some people who definitely weren't invited. Over 25 protesters were hauled off the Mall earlier today after they tried to disrupt Trooping of the Colour. The group Animal Rebellion said they targeted the Queen's Jubilee because of the Crown's inaction over climate change. Meanwhile, Meg Matthews took to Instagram to hit out at the Queen's Royal Guard for using real bearskins in their ceremonial caps and not faux fur. So is the Jubilee an appropriate time to protest? There is a curious kind of angle on this, which we explored a little earlier today. And that, when you think of everything that's quintessentially British, the royal family is up there. You know, people were talking about James Bond, Harry Potter, music, etc., and also the right to protest. But, of course, there's a point, there's an awkward juxtaposition, isn't there, when, you know, when do you pick the right time to protest, even if it's your right, Sharon? These guys were lucky, by the way, that somebody didn't come along and shoot them.
Exactly. And the thing that I don't like is that we're even talking about them because that's what they want.
True.
And in their little minds, they'll think, oh, we won, they're all talking about us. I think we should all forget them because they were trying to disrupt an amazing, amazing festive day. And, you know, they didn't manage to, thank God, but just, you know, go away.
Yeah.
Just go home.
It's not the first time, Daisy, is it? We've seen people try to disrupt the royal matters, or even these characters try to disrupt any matters.
No, of course, and
matter.
my natural instinct is to support protest and support free speech. Well, but on this occasion, I just thought, guys, read the room.
Yeah, if you want to bring people with you,
seriously,
right, read the room.
You know, and imagine if one of them had been really hurt, or if a soldier had been hurt, or a horse had been hurt, or a bystander, or and it would have completely ruined the most beautiful, magical day. Yeah. And, I mean, the only good thing that would have come out of then is that they would then have been infamous and have been incredibly hated and have been pilloried. But they're just prats.
Yeah.
Hear, hear.
Aisha, have you got a different take on this?
Well, I mean, I think it was a really rubbish attempt, and it was slightly embarrassing. They kind of shambled it. They kind of shambled in front of it.
Please.
No, I think you have to accept that there's always going to be the risk of people who want to derail something like this. But I think it's also, look, while we're all in a lather of agreement about what a wonderful day it is, there's a lot of people out there who didn't think today was a great day. There's a lot of people in the country who really dislike the monarchy. They really dislike what the monarchy represents. They do think, from animal rights to privilege to the things we've just been discussing, particularly when there's a cost of living crisis and people are really struggling. I was actually quite surprised in a pleasant way that there wasn't more trouble. I actually thought there might be. So I'm sure the police did a very good job of keeping an eye. There was a huge police presence out today. But I think we just have to be mindful of the fact that not everybody is going to be as enthusiastic and warm, as true as us.
There's always, Aisha, a part that doesn't agree with everybody else. There's always those people out there. And it's like I said before, don't watch, stay home. No biggie.
It's a national day of celebration today.
Indeed. Well, coming up in other news, Amber Heard looks set to appeal against the verdict in the defamation lawsuit brought by her ex-husband, Johnny Depp. He was awarded £12 million. We're discussing that next. This is The Talk. We are live on Talk TV.
This is Talk TV.
Welcome back to the Talk Live on Talk TV. We can now see live shots, by the way, from Buckingham Palace. This is Prince William at the lighting of the beacons. As you can see there, more than 3,500 beacons will be lit across the UK and its overseas territories to mark the Platinum Jubilee. The Queen is making an appearance at Windsor Castle to light the principal Platinum Jubilee beacon. And rightly so, of course. This is a tradition that marks royal jubilees, weddings and coronations.
It is wonderful just to see the celebrations just going on and on and on. But look, let's move on to some other news, because there's lots of other things happening, and it's that case that we've all been talking about. Amber Heard says she plans to appeal the verdict in the multi-million-dollar defamation lawsuit brought by her ex-husband, Johnny Depp. The actress said she was heartbroken and felt disappointed beyond words after Depp was awarded nearly £12 million by an American court. She was awarded £1.6 million in her countersuit against him. Now, the Pirates of the Caribbean star was seen celebrating in a Newcastle pub when the verdict was revealed, fog on the Tyne. Now, he's made several surprise appearances around the UK while supporting the musician Jeff Beck on tour. But now Heard's lawyer is claiming she can't afford to pay Johnny Depp, and she's saying that social media swayed the jury.
They went home every night. They have families. The families are on social media. We had a 10-day break in the middle because of the judicial conference. There's no way they couldn't have been influenced by it. And it was horrible. It really, really was lopsided. And I appreciate your saying that. It's like the Roman Colosseum, you know, how they viewed this whole case.
So is it wise for Amber Heard to challenge the ruling after we've heard so many gruesome allegations of abuse from both parties? Sharon, what do you think?
I don't think she should do it. I really, really don't. And as she said when she was on the stand, she just wants this all to go away. She didn't want to be there. He did bring her. You know, he sued her first, then she sued him. But it's just got to go away. It's enough. And if her lawyer thinks that social media swayed the jury, it's only going to be the same again.
Yeah.
And it won't go away. His fans will not go away. So it's like she should just try and get her life back and just back off for a while and get her life back.
Sharon, I know you know Johnny Depp, but you sound to me like you're very sympathetic towards Amber Heard in what you were just saying, or did I misinterpret what you were saying?
I am, because I think that they both were bad to each other. I think
just toxic.
It was a toxic relationship, and I think they treated each other disgracefully. But that's their business. It's not mine. But it's, you know, people do.
But it's become all of our business now, hasn't it?
Because it's all been out there for so long.
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, come on, guys, let's end it, you know.
You kind of wonder whether... Was that all? I mean, the stuff about him, the stuff about her, etc. I mean, my sense, by the way, on the, I don't think she will appeal this. I think that will just quietly go away. Yeah. It might even be that he doesn't even ask for the money in the end, if that's how you're meant to look at it. I think that
I suppose it depends on, you know, how much he does want to destroy her. I mean, Paul, what's your sense on this case?
It's an obscene amount of money to be talking about leading the news every night in our country when there are people in our country wondering whether they should switch the electric lights off and whether they can feed their families. And I think a lot of people around the country are thinking, what are we talking about here? What, millions, two superstars suing each other for millions? It doesn't make any sense to ordinary people.
And Daisy, what's your sense about what you think is going to happen with this? Do you think it is going to drag on?
I agree with Ian. I was speaking to an expert in sort of defamation and libel laws last night, a friend of mine, and I asked him, and he said she would always say she was going to appeal. That's just what you say when you lose a case. You just say it automatically. And then he said he said he didn't think she would, partly because she hasn't got the money to do it, but also because you keep proclaiming your innocence, by saying you're going to appeal. That's what you do.
Of course.
I mean, I've got, again, a slightly different theme of the night.
Come on, let's hear it.
But, I mean, if you listen to some of the high-profile lawyers who have handled some of the Me Too cases for the women, they lost the first round and they went back on appeal and they got a different result at appeal. So it is possible that she could do this. I think one of the really sad things is just the profound consequences of this, because while I do agree with Sharon, I think they were in a grotesque, toxic relationship, watching her getting absolutely humiliated is going to have a very, I think, damaging effect on women who want to come forward with either domestic violence claims or rape claims.
See, I disagree, because the thing is, you're talking about two stars from Hollywood, two, you know, very, very accomplished people having a go at each other. We're not talking about normal, everyday people. We're not talking about, you know, a woman who cannot leave her husband because she has nowhere to go. She has no money. She has to stay with her children. That's not the situation.
But my counterpoint to that is I think a lot of people will look at Amber Heard and think, if somebody as powerful, rich and beautiful like her can get treated like that, what chance do I have?
Yeah, but the thing is, we were
Aisha.
talking about it the other night, about how when you go to the police, how the police deal with people of rape or battery, that you always feel guilty going because of the way they treat women when they go in. Remember we spoke about that?
In court. And I think the Amber Heard pictures will confirm that story in a lot of women's minds.
But it wasn't criminal.
I think we're going to have to agree to disagree. But I agree with Aisha. And now I'm going to move us on. How annoying is that?
Perhaps they're both losers. Perhaps they both lose.
I'm using my influence, but we are moving on. We're moving on to airline passengers, as if they haven't had enough problems recently. They're now being told to bring just one little tiny cabin bag with them on holiday and to leave check-in baggage at home. Union bosses are advising travellers to pack light to beat the rush and help reduce delays. And of course, airports have seen these chaotic scenes in recent days, with thousands of families having their half-term holidays completely ruined due to all those hundreds of cancelled flights. So the question is packing light a practical solution? And I just think this is taking the mickey to another degree. I think airline bosses have been outrageous, and they have been trying to charge us for extra baggage for decades. They've been swindling us and tricking us into paying more and more. You get to check out and then it's, oh, do you want to take anything more than a toothbrush? You'll have to put an extra £150 on that bill. And this just seems to me, it's just another way of the same con.
We touched on this the other night, and we were just saying afterwards, there is nothing remotely glamorous, fun or comfortable about travelling on airlines anymore. It is a hellscape. They have made it so difficult. And for all these people desperate for their summer holidays, saving up their money, and now this, and you're so right about I mean, everybody knows when they've flown a particular budget airline, you're 1 gram over the limit, and you see couples on their hands and knees unpacking, divorces happening in the, you know, it's absolute hell on earth. This is just a cop-out. They have got to sort this out.
Do you remember when Thingy O'Leary of EasyJet, but he said he was going to charge us... Ryanair. No, he said he was going to charge us to go to the loo.
Behave.
Do you remember? There was such outrage.
To make it worse, though, we're going to have outside toilets. I
was waiting for the oxygen mask. We're going to charge you for oxygen.
Exactly.
There's a mask coming down, basically.
That'll be 50p.
I fly Ryanair regularly to Italy, and I've learned to take only a carry-on. But it's easy because it's just me. I haven't got children.
Not to drink anything
Exactly. Once you've got the babies,
don't drink
it's like...
Yes, you have to take everything and the kitchen sink with you when you've got a family, but with just me, it doesn't matter because I can wash one pair of pants out in the sink, can't I?
But it used to be a bit flexible, didn't it? I mean,
is that what you learned at the palace? Is this the butler skills?
Absolutely. Washing out things in a sink.
At night.
Yeah.
Before
you've done that, Sharon.
All of these budget airline kind of restrictions, and, you know, it can't be... I mean, my idea of hand luggage was a massive Samsonite case, you know, the sort of thing you'd have for a family of 6, because I thought if you can get it all in there, you haven't got to wait at the old kind of, you know, carousel at the end of it. And then, of course, gradually it got worse and worse, and then you couldn't take your you know, your eau de Sarsens or whatever in your bag. You couldn't have, you know, a phone or an iPad. And the restrictions have got so bad, as you were saying, anyway. And this is now, it feels like 1958 or something. You can't take your hand luggage.
My best friend doesn't have many bad habits, but the one bad habit she does do is she clears out hotels, you know, all the little bottles. I mean, she's like a kleptomaniac. The last time she went on holiday and her bag was exactly the right weight. Going home, she had to pay an extra £100 for all the freebies that she'd stolen because they weighed her bag down. I'm not going to say her name, I'll be in trouble. Now, coming right up, we have got more on the big story today. Of course, Jubilee coverage. The royal family was expected to have lunch together after trooping the colour today. Love to be a fly on that wall. But what would have been on the menu? Well, I'm going to ask Paul Burrell about Her Majesty's favourite foods. Right up next, this is The Talk live on Talk TV.
Welcome back to The Talk, live on Talk TV. Now, let's move on. This is the best bit of the show, believe me, best bit of the week. Let's move on to the short and sharp debates from our panel. It's time for small talk. Paul, you've got the first one.
Well, we're eating right royal food, and thank you, Sharon, for bringing this vintage Krug champagne for us all to drink. Her
is
Majesty's
all from the
favourite.
talk.
God bless the Queen.
God bless
God
the
bless
Queen.
you, Your Majesty.
And God bless Sharon
Yes.
Osbourne.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Royalty.
It's
Sharon's
all the
royalty in
guys.
her own
She's
right.
our own royalty.
We've got
Long
food
live
as
the
well.
Queen.
We've got jam sandwiches. Now, a lot of people don't know the Queen likes a jam sandwich, but they are jam pennies, as she calls them. And these were always her favourite in the nursery when she was a little girl, and they always appear on the royal tea table. It's just white bread and butter with a bit of jam in between.
Lovely.
We've got
They look
coronation
so
chicken.
special,
Aren't they?
though, like that, don't they?
Bite-sized little pieces, especially for the kiddies.
And Paul, does she always have crusts off?
Always
on
crusts
sandwiches?
off.
Good girl.
Always.
And is it always white bread?
White and brown bread. Depends what's being served.
Is
What
it a
else have we
scone
got?
or a scone?
Oh, it's a scone.
And would she have the cream under the jam or over the jam?
No, you see, the scones are served in the royal household whole. And you're meant to break them in half, not
DIY.
cut them in half.
Yes.
You know that. And then, depending on whether you put the jam on first and then the cream, which the Queen does, or the other way round, depends whether you come from Devon or Cornwall.
So
It's
does
one
that
or the
mean-
other.
Oh, right, okay.
So is she popular in Devon or Cornwall? Which one is she favouring?
I think she's Devon, really.
Oh,
Sure.
Dear.
She liked those mints as well, didn't she?
Bendix bitter mints
mints,
are
yeah.
her favourite. They're not on because you've got a green background, but they're covered in foil.
Yes.
And very often I'd find one in her raincoat pocket that she'd
bless.
taken out, and she'd had a little nibble and then wrapped it up again and put it back in her pocket.
The cake. Come on.
This cake,
It's
this
all
cake,
about the
The
cake.
chocolate biscuit cake is her favourite. And we used to have these made in the royal kitchens to send to Eton in William and Harry's tuck boxes. They were
Different world, right?
favourites of the Etonians. They're
Get your
hard-
trowel
it's-
in there, Paul.
Oh, look at this.
Now, the biscuit cake, did that have bits of glacé cherry in it or not?
No. No
Good,
glacé
because I
cherries.
don't like it with glacé
But
cherries.
this is just
Pass us a jam.
delicious.
Would you like a jam?
I mean, look
penny,
at
Sharon?
this.
There you go.
Oh, my goodness.
They're all right, these.
Chocolate cake. The Queen loves chocolate.
And this looks like coronation chicken.
Coronation chicken.
Is she
chicken.
partial to that?
Yes. Yes, it was invented for her coronation.
Just
as
what-
well you know.
Just
Ingredients.
while you guys are tucking in.
Yes.
Sharon, you've got another small talk
She's
for
got
us as
another
well.
Oh,
bread
I
and jam.
do. Okay.
I've got your mid-jam.
Hold on, because I messed this up last time. Okay. The Queen's new portrait. What do we think?
I think it looks a bit sort of Photoshop.
You do?
Yeah, I
so?
think I was in a minority today.
It's real.
I mean, I know it's real, but what I mean is, look at. Do you see what
It's
I
a
mean?
window seat outside of her room.
No, but
she
I mean
lives
her
just
face.
across the corridor from here, and
Is
she
that
passes this
Windsor?
spot every day. Yes, it's in the green corridor, and it's just a little window seat. But I think it could be anybody's gran or gran.
You know, I think
couldn't
it's
it?
a lovely, lovely
Yeah.
picture. I think it's really captured where she is
Natural.
now. It's very soft as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
And she looks great.
I think she looks
She
amazing.
with that sense of history behind her, with the round tower.
Yep.
Okay, well, I'm alone,
Bless
so I thought
her.
her face looked a bit odd in it.
Oh.
I didn't.
Daisy.
How could
The
you
painting,
say that?
not
Give
her
me that
actual
champagne.
face. The
Got it,
painting.
Sharon, got
the
it.
painting.
Daisy,
But
what have you got for
But
us?
I love the outfit, which, of course, she was wearing today.
Yeah.
Queen's birthday honours list, of course, came out last night. Big names like Damian Lewis, lots of sportsmen, lots of footballers. I'm beginning to wonder whether there are too many footballers in New Year's honours list. There seem to be a lot. There was Stella McCartney, the designer, Claire Balding, and, as I said, Gareth Bale and Rio Ferdinand. Are we in favour of...
I mean, Claire Balding is on the TV that much. I'm surprised she's not presenting her own award. I mean, that's what... Certainly when I saw this, I thought, well,
Would
goodness me,
you
should you
guys-
get awards for just doing your job?
Would you take, talking of sort of journalists or presenters, there always used to be a thing that journalists didn't take
Yeah.
damehoods or knighthoods, and that's
Really?
yes, because
I didn't know that.
in the sort of when I was growing up in journalism, it was considered not the done thing because you were meant to be holding these people to account.
True.
And if you'd taken a bauble
Right.
from them, it would
I've
put you in a.
I've got an MBE.
Oh, why aren't you wearing it?
And I've
haven't you?
and
Yeah.
I've
Why
got
aren't you wearing
I
it?
should have
And Paul,
worn
hang
it.
on, Paul's got his badge.
I've got his
know,
badge.
it's
What's my
like-
badge on?
I should have
What is it?
worn
This is my Royal Victoria Medal,
So
which the Queen
did you
gave to me.
think? Did you think twice
It's lovely,
about
isn't it?
I got
taking
mine for
it?
political
Wear it.
service, so I was very pleased, and particularly because I got to take my lovely mum and dad to Buckingham Palace. My mum was in her sari, and it was all so lovely.
Political service. Didn't you work for the Labour Party?
Yeah, it was very good political service, I'll have
Goodness
you
me.
know.
That's how you can get one of those things. Is that all you have to do?
And you'll get one for, like, the woke wars.
Dame Sharon Osbourne.
Yeah, right.
I love it.
Not
Aisha,
my potty bell.
what have you got for us on small talk?
Well, we just have a little bit of, just to update you all on what's happening with the celebrations. The Queen has just appeared at Windsor Castle to light the principal Platinum Jubilee beacon at the lighting of the beacon. And Prince William was also there representing his grandmother as well. So it's brilliant. It's just lovely to see.
Do we think that light sort of carpet went all the way, the 22 miles from Windsor to Buckingham? Well, that's the impression it's giving, but I don't know whether that's
the electricity bill's going to be a nightmare.
The carbon footprint. And what do we think? This is the Tree of Trees, or the Tree of Life, or whatever it's called, being lit.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
It's really beautiful.
It does look good now.
Thomas Heatherwick is a great designer.
Unlit.
I'm very fond of him.
Unlit, it looked a bit meh, to be honest.
Oh,
but
it's beautiful.
But it looks good now.
And it's going to be dismantled and taken to all parts of the Queen's realm, apparently.
So
all the trees.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yes. So each of those buckets has got a little mini tree in it that is going to be
one in my
planted.
garden.
And I think they've already planted 1 million trees, haven't they, as part of the canopy?
I
That's
planted one.
incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
I planted one.
There's quite a lot has gone on, hasn't there? And more to come, of course.
Busy time.
It's been a long day for the Queen today, hasn't it?
Absolutely.
So put your feet up, Your Majesty.
Yeah.
Yes.
God, she's done well. She's done us proud.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Listen,
Here we
guys, here's to Her Majesty.
Oh, I feel a bit tearful.
bless the Queen.
That is all we've got time for tonight. Thank you to our panellists. Sharon Osbourne, fabulous Paul Burrell, Daisy McAndrew, Aisha Hazarika. I'll be back on Talk TV at 1 o'clock tomorrow. And, of course, The Talk is back at 9 p.m. We'll leave you now with today's highlights from the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. Good night.